Yes, hello everybody. I am the director here of business development here at LGT, and we are so excited to interview Tori, this next webinar speaker. It's no big secret that AI is on the rise. Companies and individuals are already using it, and leaning into AI is not just convenient, it's imperative. Not just for companies, but for individuals as well to stay competitive in the marketplace. And it's my pleasure to introduce Tori Begg. Tori is the head of AI Enablement and Strategy at a leading digital marketing agency where she spearheads the integration of artificial intelligence across sales, marketing, and operational processes. With a background in B2B marketing and a passion for innovation, Tori specializes in making complex AI tools accessible, actionable, and impactful for businesses of all sizes. Welcome, Tori.
Thanks so much, Alex, and thanks, Josh, as well.
Absolutely.
So, Tori, when we were chatting originally, when you were blowing my mind with all of this AI stuff, you had said something that really sticks out to me. You said that AI should be seen as an operating system, not just a browser tab. And can you dig a little bit deeper into that and kind of elaborate on that a little bit more?
Yeah, Alex, I think that AI needs to be a mindset shift. We need to keep up with AI as a whole. It shouldn't just be something that you go to rewrite an email or look for that word that's at the tip of your tongue, but know the definition of. It should be part of your entire workflow and your entire strategy. You should have a partner in your pocket at all times that's not only helping you rewrite, but helping you figure out what step is next, how to prioritize your day, where to go when you're stuck, turning blank pages into full pages, and really taking your entire daily workflow and turning it into a profitable and strategic path to success. We need to really integrate it into every part of our process. AI is a tech tool, right? But it's not just the IT team's playground anymore. It really belongs in the hands of everybody within an organization. That includes sales, operations, finance, marketing. It needs to be with everybody.
I feel like it's not just a fad anymore. It started out being a fad, when it came out, the generative AI just a few years ago. And I think what's now the shift, and you hit it right on the head, Tori, is like from an operational standpoint, how do we integrate this in our operations on a day-to-day basis to move our needle forward? And I think that's where a lot of leadership has to kind of start thinking towards is, it's not just making our emails sound better, it's about how do we create functional, processes better at this point.
For sure. And that's a scary thing, right? And it's what I hear time and time again when I go into companies and start teaching their sales and marketing teams on how to implement a new tool or AI in general. It's, well, we've done it this way for 40 years. And what I teach in all of my trainings internally here at VDS is that the illiterate of the 21st century aren't going to be people that can't read and write. It's going to be people that can't unlearn and relearn using artificial intelligence in their jobs. And I know that job security has been brought up, especially in this past 2 weeks, the amount of times that I've gotten asked about jobs and what the CEO of Anthropic said about the disappearance of entry-level jobs. It's going to be there, right? But salespeople, AI isn't going to replace salespeople. AI isn't going to replace a CFO, but people that are using AI in those positions are going to replace the people that aren't, right?
You have to stay competitive.
You have to stay competitive.
That's like I bet you in a year, if you don't, well, maybe a little more than that, maybe 2 years, if you don't have like AI on your resume in some capacity, I feel like in the job market, you're gonna be not as competitive. And then also if you don't, like Chase, for example, didn't allow people to use ChatGPT for the longest time, and now they just created their own internal AI because they're like, okay, wait a minute, we really got to get on this boat, you know?
Yeah. Yes. And that is the shift that's happening. And I see it. I'm very embedded in the AI world with companies across the nation and people that are influential in artificial intelligence. And I think you changed your rhetoric there from 1 year to 2 years. And I think you were more spot on with that 1 year. People are changing now, and especially with the emergence of agents, which I'm sure we'll get into throughout this webinar, we need to learn how to manage. There's no such thing as an entry-level employee anymore. There's going to be employees that come in that have the advantage of learning whatever they can. AI is the great equalizer, right? And there's going to be employees that are managing AI employees. So
Right. And
that's coming now.
Yeah.
absolutely. And I think that's, as we have folks on here and, you know, with AI being the big buzzword, you know, speak to more of like, from the small business standpoint, let's say I'm a small business owner and things like that. How do I start to kind of begin to prepare for, implementing this?
Yeah, it's a tough one. And I started in my position about a year ago. I have been bringing artificial intelligence literacy, knowledge, and strategy into my company since generative AI came out in November of 2022. And like I said, it's hard because there's a lot of you can't teach old dogs new tricks. And this is where it takes a little bit of that change management functionality. But first and foremost is the people. We don't have AI if we don't have people first. And we need to start with AI education and literacy. That's where I started within my company. We need to upskill and reskill our teams. Fear comes from the unknown. And AI literacy training and programs are what's going to mitigate all of that fear. We need to teach about AI safety. We need to teach about prompting. We need to teach about tools that are out there so that we're not keeping people back from AI, because guess what? They're going to use it either way. If you don't allow it in your company on your computers, they're going to use it on their phone. It's called shadow AI. From the last state of AI report, 80% of workers use shadow AI if they don't have AI to use at their company. So figure out the people, figure out where their skills are, match those skills, teach them where those gaps are, right? That's first and foremost. From there,
Well,
yeah.
I think you're right. And I think, but, I think also you also got to take in the risk, standpoint of it, right? And I know it's been mentioned in prior things, we've put on a few webinars as well on AI, but, making sure that we have those policies in place, internally. So, it hopefully tries to protect yourself from those who do that shadow AI. And it doesn't get yourself or your operational type stuff in trouble.
Yeah, governance is huge. We need ethical frameworks. We need responsible use. We need privacy, and data use, right? And ChatGPT just last week allowed connectors where anybody can go on and connect their entire Google Drive into ChatGPT. Now that can be nerve-wracking for a company. And once you go in, you can't really go back in
Yeah.
that stance because ChatGPT also has memory. So that's where you need best practices and guidelines and those metrics to keep people in line. I hope that people are taking this and saying, yes, we need governance. Yes, we need frameworks, but we want them to be written in a way that allows people to use this rather than keeps people from using it.
Yeah.
So framing it in a more positive way. AI is here, it's here to stay. Let's get governance on how we can keep it in a safe way.
Right. I think
So
that's definitely a big concern for people because AI is very daunting, I think, especially if you don't really know what it is. I say like, ChatGPT is like the gateway. And then once you start using ChatGPT, then you're like, well, what else can I do? So let's just say, so what are some ways that companies can start integrating some of this? Like, what's the first step? How do you kind of get into it?
Yeah, getting people ready, making a roadmap so that you're understanding what that looks like, doing change management. And I mean, all of that comes down to one thing, and that is identifying low risk, high friction tasks. Reporting, note taking, expense sorting. Where do you do things over and over again? Or that what I say to my staff, I say, what task in your day would you want to jump off a cliff? And let's figure out how to automate it, right? Then you need to choose your tools on how to automate it, like a ChatGPT, a Gamma, a Read AI, and we'll go through these in a little bit. But once you have those low risk, high friction tasks, it's really important to start assigning champions that have ownership over those tasks and start doing pilot solutions and measure those outcomes so that you can prove the ROI and you can prove the value. But I recommend really empowering those hand raisers who are already in your company and doing more bottom up change management, because it starts with the champions who have their boots on the ground. You're going to need to take advantage of people that know how to use this, are already using it, and are in the trenches. So that's super important. I came from just being a sales rep and have been able to teach and integrate AI sales enablement to 200 sales reps across the nation because I knew what my day already looked like. I knew where the bottlenecks were and I knew where my pain points were. And then I knew how to integrate AI to solve them. So
I
communicate that afterwards.
Yeah, that's if I could just take a picture from all the networking events, if I could just take a picture of all the business cards that I have, and then AI could just email them to set up a meeting, like
You
that would
can't.
be, oh my God, we're gonna need to talk. We're gonna need to talk. Okay, that's awesome. And so I think identifying the mundane task or the easy to get rid of task, you have to start from the bottom. It has to be, how do I, it's like when you're out of office or auto reply, anything like that, anything that you can automate, but through it using AI is would be the first step. But then and then you have to align with it, or no, assign. You just pick somebody that you like. Is that how it would go? How do you assign it a task or
I mean, pick somebody that you like, maybe not, but we all like a personality hire though, right? Pick somebody that has initiative,
yeah.
that understands, and that has good social listening. So I think something that's really important that people don't think about is AI is a very community driven and creative tool.
Yeah.
People aren't doing this alone. Why? Because nobody really knows how to do it yet.
Mhm.
We need community. You need someone that can lead change and lead community and that has the drive to understand all of this. And it's not just understanding it once, it's understanding it day in, day out, day after day, because it changes so fast. So that's where I would pick somebody that can handle all of that together. And it's going to take a very specific person, but you need that specific person to drive this huge change management system, even to begin with.
Yeah.
So, all right. So we've talked a little bit about the background here and how it should be kind of implemented internally. Can we kind of start thinking or talking about more how to use it?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, because what you do when you get into any of these AI tools or large language models is prompting, right? And you're only going to get back as good as you put in. A lot of people come to me and they're like, Tori, AI, I had a task for it to do. It just couldn't do it. False. I
Yeah.
think where the problem usually starts and where people's try usually ends has to do with prompting. So I like to teach a really quick and easy framework. Role, task, context, requirements. Now, there are tons of prompting frameworks out there. I know there's a Wiser. I know there's a proper framework,
Yeah.
but to me, it seems like a lot of letters. I like 4 really quick and really getting through how we're going to get people into prompt better. So first, starting with your role. This is an act like, assign a persona, act like a controller, act like a professional sales rep. Start with that. I've heard out there that they don't like to use act as, they just like to say you are, because we don't want them to pretend. We just want them to be. But this is where AI is creative. Like I said earlier, go in there and try a bunch of things. You're never going to figure it out first time in, first time out. This is really something you have to keep going with and push. But act as a controller, be a controller, act as a salesperson, be a salesperson, and then give it even more depth. The more depth you can give into any of those prompts, the better. Who excels at and works for XXX type of company, to make sure that you're reeling in the AI. So AI is built and meant to be creative, and it is trained off of all of the data that we have across the internet. If you're able to bring that in and hone and give it a specific job, it's going to do much better at giving you a result.
Yeah,
Next.
it's all about linked prompting, right? And that's
It
what
is.
it's called. It's called linked prompting.
Yep.
You got to build upon what you're trying to ask it to do, because it may not, either one, it could be on a human error side, right? We may not be giving enough input to it for it to, know where to pull that information and put that information together for you.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. And then you got to go to the task. You need to be clear. Summarize this cash flow forecast. Write a cold email to. You just need to make this a very specific want statement. And we'll kind of go through the prompt that I have here at the bottom right afterwards. But next is context. Who it's for, what it's for. You need to provide relevant data or backstories and examples. Again, the more data that you can give it, the better. And then go into requirements. So this is going to be your format, tone, style, examples of other emails that you sent that worked, subject lines that have had good response rates, a cash flow forecast summary that you did prior, whatever that looks like. You need to specify the tone, the format, and the depth in that. And hot tip here, I do all of this not by sitting there and typing into my computer. I have these crazy nails on, and me on the keyboard aren't friends. So I have all of my large language models that I use downloaded on my phone, and I talk into my large language model. I can type about 40 words per minute. I can talk 170 words per minute, 190 if you get the East Coast girl out in me. But that's where you're going to get so much more detail in your prompts. And I promise you, AI is trained off the hogwash of the internet, and you saying in the middle of your prompt or going off on a tangent isn't gonna mess it up. So hot tip, talk into your prompt instead of typing into it. But you can read on here the prompt that I gave you an example of. Act as a CFO. That's your act like, right? I went even in more in depth. Who has the ability to see around corners and connect dots? Let's build the whole persona. You could go 5 more sentences about who this CFO is, right? Build the persona. You read the news every day and excel and understanding Americans and America's ecosystem and how it pertains to business finance. I added more to the persona, right? Review this P&L and think deeply about how and why the numbers might be up or down. That's my task. I want it to review and think deeply. Okay. Then summarize 3 key risks and 2 strategic opportunities in bullet points. I need you to write it in an email, but it shouldn't be more than 200 words. Context, going into requirements, right? This should be professional. It's for the executive team. They need to understand the whole report in a quick and value-driven way, make it easy to skim and easy to read. I've added an example. So Not a huge prompt, guys. Sometimes my prompts are a page long, again, because I'm talking into it. But this is going to give you such a better output than saying, can you review this P&L and give me a couple bullet points on it?
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is the way we need to think about prompting. And it's an art. And you will get better at it. But start using this framework and start thinking about it where you need as much detail and depth as you can to give it all the information. Really bring in the creative data, huge data mind that something like ChatGPT has, and reel it in to be able to give you the best response.
I think this is going to help us be better communicators.
Yeah, fair. Fair. I say all the time, AI allows me to be more human. Hot take.
I think it's much better because I remember when ChatGPT first came out, like I'd be like, write this for me, and then I'm like, no, that's not good. Do better, and no, do better, and it's like, then it would just keep spewing out the same stuff, and I'm like, not the same stuff, but it wasn't doing what I wanted it to, and I'm like, oh, maybe I should tell it exactly what I want, and it just, yeah, but I mean, it makes sense. If you do need something that's just surface level, great, but if there are points that you need to get across, let it know. It'll throw it in there.
Alex, you just came up with a super important point. I don't even know if you did know that, but you said do better, right? And then I had to say, no, 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 do better.
Uh,
Refining and reiterating every single time that you do your prompts is going to be imperative. You're never going to put in a prompt and get an exact result that you need. If you figure out how to do that on a consistent basis, hit me up on LinkedIn because I would love to know. You need to refine and reiterate.
Yeah.
You need to talk back to it. You don't just get one response and say, yep, I'm good to go, right?
Yeah.
Tell it what you want, keep telling it what you want, and keep pushing it. Another hot tip on prompting, once you do create a really great prompt and you get a good output that you like, copy it, paste it, put it in a prompt library. I encourage all of you, if you have a second screen, if you're doing something else, to right now go in, create a sheet, create an Excel doc, create something, label it prompt library, and start recording. Then you can refine, reiterate, grab, copy, and paste, and use them over and over again, saving you even more time.
I've
Keeps
got to
you
do that.
organized, keeps you streamlined.
I've got to do that for follow-up emails. Like as soon as we wrap up, I'm doing that.
Oh, it's funny because I actually do. I have a Google Doc that I have set up that is just it's my ChatGPT cheat sheet where I can literally copy and paste. So I'm not sitting there having to type, a paragraph every time, right? The
Exactly.
speed is, imperative, right? We need everything at our fingertips. And for example, Alex, you earlier going, do better, do better, do better, right? Because I want it now. I want it now.
Mhm.
So having that, where I can copy and paste has been, life changing. So.
Yeah, and say you just have it in a doc, right? Your prompt library, and it's kind of disheveled. Grab that doc, put it into ChatGPT, and have it organize you into sheets. I need a prompt library, format it like
Yeah.
this,
Yeah.
right?
It's helped me a lot with Excel because I need to do better.
Now I know we've been talking a lot about ChatGPT,
Uh,
right? But there's a lot of tools out there.
uh-huh.
I tend to use ChatGPT a lot because I was a really early adopter. ChatGPT knows a scary amount about me, but then therefore can really grasp my tone, my language, what I'm trying to do. Josh, are you more of a ChatGPT user?
It's funny because I actually did start off with the ChatGPT, right? But now I've migrated over to Gemini. So Google Gemini has been my go-to for a lot of what I do, just because it's integrated with my Google account, and it's integrated with my docs and my sheets, and that I use, even outside of work. But the funny thing is that I actually have been using the other one, Claude AI, for more of my writing stuff because I felt like Claude just produced better writing, or from or humanized the writing a little bit better than the others.
Yeah.
So
Claude is known for having the best natural language processes. So definitely makes sense. Anthropic is a foundational model company. And cool that you're using Claude. You don't see it as much in regular business. I didn't put it on this tool list, but it is a large language model that a lot of people in the AI world tend to use. So, how about you, Alex? Are you more of a ChatGPT girl?
Yes, but that's because I don't know any better.
Got it.
I mean, I need to start playing around with a couple other ones just because, I mean, even just reading over this slide, I mean, even like for automation, I'm like, oh, what kind of automation? Like, and then, well, one of the things that blew my mind when you and I were talking was you told me, oh, well, my son had a project on dinosaurs. So we took 4 essays he needed to read. We made a podcast and we listened to it on the way to school. And I'm like, you made a what now? And you told me that. I was like, that's crazy. And there's just so much to learn. Like with ChatGPT, I'm like just scratching the surface, but that's why I was so excited about this conversation because I'm like, all right, you know what, Alex, be a sponge and just do it. So I'm really glad that I'm like, I need to screenshot these.
Yeah, well, finding the tools that create change is one of the most important parts about integrating AI into your system. And Josh, you nailed the nail on the head. Is that what it is? You hit the nail
yeah,
on the head.
hit the nail.
Hit the nail on the head because the perfect place to start is with what is already working, right? So start with what plugs in. Like you said, you're running in a Google ecosystem, super easy to integrate Gemini. Part of the Google ecosystem, which is what I run as at my company, is that Notebook LM that Alex was just talking about. So for all y'all who don't know Notebook LM, this is probably my hot tool for the day. It is a closed system large language model that is a Google product. So what I mean by closed system is a grounded system that only takes the knowledge that you have within each notebook to curate things like study guides or briefing docs, mind maps, or like Alex said, really amazing podcasts where there are two people talking, yet you wouldn't be able to tell it was AI if I didn't tell you. Now, this is really great on for a couple of different reasons. One, I can take, just like I said, once you bring the AI down really small through your prompting, you get better results. This is bringing your AI down really small through the sources that you're giving it. So it's grounding all of that information in the source. If you're talking about organic SEO, and I use that as an example because I'm in marketing, it's not going to take the organic SEO data from across the internet. It's just going to take the organic SEO data that I put in there. You can ask questions to that data then. Again, only using those grounded sources, and you can put up to 300 different sources into Notebook LM. That's the plus version. I believe it is 30 for the non-plus version. But it is free, that non-plus version, and the sources you can put in there are documents from like a Google Drive, just text files, YouTube videos, URLs, so practical PDFs, practically anything you can think of. And when I said closed system earlier, it means that Google is not training any of its algorithms for its large language models on any of the data that you're putting in there or the prompts that you're getting and responses that you're getting back. So a pretty safe, talk to your legal team. Safe is a scary word to use, but a fairly safe space to keep your data and to talk through documents or grounded things across the internet.
I'm glad you brought up the payment stuff because we do have a question out there that's talking about, is it, worth paying for an AI tool versus the free version?
Good question. Yes. Easy answer for a few reasons. You have more authority over your data, and how any tool that you're using is using that data. it also takes away those governors on limits that you can have while using them. So I do recommend you like maybe doing a free trial, or there's a bunch of companies out there that you can like pay the $20 a month and you can go in and you can test them. Or I can make sure, I don't have it in front of me, but there is an AI like battleground page that they use to test different large language models. And you can type the same prompt into Claude versus ChatGPT and see which one that you like better. But play with them, figure out what you like better. And I think the $20 investment, which is what most of these large language models are very, very well worth it. And you'll get your ROI on just time as a human being very quickly. I
It's
have
funny.
ChatGPT, Perplexity. I have almost all of them on here just because this is my job. So
You know, one thing that we hadn't talked on here and you didn't put in your list, and probably a lot of people use this, right, in a lot of offices, is Microsoft Copilot.
yeah, couple reasons. First of all, didn't put a lot of things in this list because there are, I just like a month back did an hour presentation to a large group of people just on tools in AI. There are so many, we could have talked the whole hour about them. So didn't put it on for that reason. And I am a Google ecosystem worker, employee, and personal user. So I don't have, admittedly, as much experience with Copilot. I know that they've gone through some ups and downs with how they've gotten their tech out there. I know the backside of how they're getting that data and how they're using Bing. And I know how Copilot works, but I'm not super familiar past that, admittedly.
Well, I think that's resonating to a lot of different people. I don't know if a lot of people are, I think, once you're the first one to the playing field, like OpenAI was and ChatGPT, right? It's going to become that common word, right? Just like Google. If you need to search something on the web, where do you go? You go to Google. It's just, if you need an AI tool, you're going to go where? Well, it's probably going to be ChatGPT,
Yeah.
most likely. So.
And there's, I usually go to the top three, right? I use Google, I use Gemini, but besides that, you have ChatGPT, you have Claude, which we talked about earlier, and then you have Perplexity, which is a fantastic research tool. Perplexity is what I would consider a Google competitor. It is trying to be an answer engine, which is the direction that Google is going in. But Perplexity is a search engine or answer engine, as I just said, that is live real time across the internet. I use this for all of my research when I am trying to look at what's going on in markets currently, or where I'm trying to get really relevant and recent sources. Perplexity's UI is also a big part of this. It gives these awesome follow-up questions, and it gives exactly where those sources are to be able to dig your feet in a little bit more if you're looking to do deep research. There's also deep research, which again, Perplexity has it, Claude has it, ChatGPT has it, Gemini has it, Grok has it. But this is another tool within all of these tools that you can use to dive deeper into any type of subject. It will ask you some follow-up questions about what you're trying to learn about. I'm trying to learn about again, going back to marketing, but the marketing landscape for walk-in clinics in 2025. And I want the history on it, and I want what's worked in the past, and I want to see where it's probably going in the future. And it will pull up hundreds of sources across the internet and give you a research paper that's 30 pages long so that you can really grasp any topic at length. And then I usually just take that and put it into NotebookLM and listen to
say
about it.
podcast. Well, I have a
Which, by the
question.
way, that part is fantastic. I did get a chance to use NotebookLM when I think I was meeting a vendor and they sent me something back in an email with this basically a podcast about our firm based on our website. And I was like, oh my gosh, that is fantastic. And I looked down and it said made by NotebookLM, and I went in and I took a look at it. And yeah, sure enough, I went in, I added the URL and said, hey, I want a podcast that is about our firm. And
That's
what
cool.
it spit out was, you could definitely tell there's a little bit of AI involved, but it was really good, like professional,
How long was
and
it?
spot on. It was probably about, I think it did 15 minutes.
Okay.
And you can control that. So there is a customizable option within it. So you can control how long it is. You can control if you have 30 documents in it and you just want to learn about one specific part of these documents, you can control what it's talking about, the engagement level. So you brought up the example of my 5-year-old. I took a bunch of dinosaur articles, but I made sure that I customized it so that it was talking to an 8-year-old, right? And they actually do have in beta, which is really cool that you can interrupt the podcast as it's going along. So it's almost like a live podcast where you can talk back. Wait, I don't really get that part. Can you explain it in a different way? And it will stop and reformat and explain it in a different way. So having that live feature is really cool
Wow.
too, and that's in beta.
That's super
That's
cool.
awesome.
So are these agents, I keep hearing AI agents. Is ChatGPT an AI agent or
No.
a person the agent? Who's the agent? What is an agent?
Okay, good question, because this is where people do get confused. So there's a large language model. That's what ChatGPT is, programmed off of a GPT, a generative pre-trained transformer. All hogwash to say that ChatGPT, as it stands right now, is realistically just guessing what the best next word should be, right? It is using prediction to give you your answer, and it is only giving you answers that you're asking for. The difference between that, a chat bot, and an agent is an agent has agency to make decisions and to do things for you. So ChatGPT does have an agent. It is called Operator. It is under the $200 per month plan, and it has computer use. So this is where people start getting a little bit scared, but it can take over your computer. So I have 2 screens right now, and I need to go to Phoenix next Tuesday, and I need to take my CEO out to a nice dinner to schmooze him. I'm staying at the Marriott downtown. ChatGPT's operator can then go in, find when you need to have your flight, book that flight for you, understand where your hotel is, then find a restaurant that's 5-star, because remember, I'm trying to schmooze my boss, and then make a reservation for you. So it's bringing itself through this thought process. I need to do XYZ, and then it will do it for you. It's taking agency over an action and task development process.
So it's
Oh,
more of like a personal assistant. You've got a digital personal assistant, right? In
Yes.
that context.
Yes, yes. And these are, if I were to give you something that I wouldn't ignore going forward, it's agentic AI, because not only is Apple just released at its whatever it's called, MCW 2025, they just did their release of iOS 26 and what the next iPhone is going to look like. They just released an entire agent that's going to be implemented onto these devices. And then Google 3 weeks ago had Google's I/O. They now have AI mode in all of your Google searches. You guys can go on and use it now. It is rolled out to everybody. But by the summertime, we are going to have agent mode as well. So like I said, it's going to be able to book my hair appointment for me. It's also creating dynamic search, so and dynamic answers with that agent. So if I'm looking for a rug, it knows already, because the amount that I use Google, it has so much data on us that I like mid-century modern, and it will probably bring up a low pile rug for me because it knows that I have an 8-year-old and 10-year-old. So we're going to have these dynamic searches and then these agents that can then say, okay, I found this low pile rug that's mid-century modern. Then my agent will pop in and watch prices as they go up and down, and at the lowest price, buy that rug for me. That's the agent part versus the large language model part. That's just answering questions.
It's Skynet. It's
I know.
Skynet.
I'm
It
like,
is.
all the movies-
It's Skynet all, coming together. I'm
It's all
waiting.
the movies they've warned us now. But here we are.
So I want to ask like something like these are really great tools and things like that. We've got a lot of probably people on our audience, who are probably controllers, CFOs, in the finance industry. And I know we put a poll up, earlier asking about like what are you wanting out of this, and a lot of them are, unsure about the ROI of what ChatGPT can do or generative AI can do for them from an operational standpoint. So, is there anything you can touch on that?
Yeah. ROI is going to come from these quick wins, because if I know anything about bringing AI into a business, it's that the C-suite CFOs want to see a quick win because AI is so quick, right? So where you're going to see ROI, I think first and foremost is bringing through the automation of manual tasks, right? It reduces time and labor spent on repetitive activities. It lowers staffing costs or allows reallocation of headcount to higher value roles or expanding your business without an expansion of headcount. And I say all of this really intentionally because I am a AI forward, human first AI thought leader. I don't think that we should ever say that AI is going to take away headcount when we're thinking about the ROI of artificial intelligence, but it will allow your expansion by allowing you to have those higher value roles. It's going to increase workflows, right? The time to market accelerates in the sales cycle. It helps forecast demand. It helps optimize inventory and reduce waste in production if you're on like the commerce and production side. And realistically, it improves decision making, allowing you to reduce costly errors, and inform your pricing, budgeting, and marketing strategies as a whole. So anywhere within your sales process, you can find ROI. The biggest part about this is really tracking and measuring from benchmark to AI implementation, right? I had, to be transparent and candid with you guys, I struggled with this in my position because we had 0 benchmarks across the company. So another hot take that you guys can take away from this meeting, if you haven't started implementing AI across your company yet, start measuring benchmarks. So all of those examples that I just gave you, that's your speed of workflows, your repetitive activity time amounts, your staff and how many accounts that they have, or how many dollars are underneath their name that they're managing. All of this stuff, you're going to want to start benchmarking now, because I'm running into the problem where I'm going to my CE suite and saying, yeah, it's working really well. I have a lot of qualitative data. I don't have much quantitative data, and I'm having to backtrack to find those benchmarks again. So especially when we're talking about ROI, I would think about that. So keep a track of, once you have those benchmarks, keep track of labor hours saved, keep track of how long it takes to complete those core tasks, process cycle times, sales conversions in that are tied to your AI workflows. And we do improvement in upsell and cross-sell opportunities by tracking if they used AI in those opportunities as well.
That's awesome. And luckily we definitely have that because everybody tracks their hours where we're at. So hopefully you guys do too. Well, really quick, I know we're getting a little bit closer to the end. I want to invite anybody who's watching, listening. I know AI can be a little bit daunting. Ask some questions. If you want to put them in the chat, and we can try to get them answered before we kind of and as she's kind of finishing up, but just wanted to invite you guys to put some questions in there, so that if you have any, then we can kind of discuss them, because, you know, I mean, I can ask you questions all day, but but I want to make sure everybody gets some golden nuggets out of this, just as much as I feel like I have. So,
Yeah,
Well,
as you
with that said, Alex, I mean, going back to the agents, there is a question actually that just popped up. So,
great.
yay, Alex, for putting that in there. You know, any security concerns when you give agents your login details?
Yes, all of them. And I think talking about security, you need to realize that using artificial intelligence in any capacity has a security risk to your data, to your privacy, to any types of prompts or information that you're giving it. What we have to reframe our mind about is that what are you willing to give away to get the value that AI is giving us back, right? We talked about ChatGPT now having connectors to be able to bring in your Google Drive. Of course, there's security risks in that. Of course, you're going to want to talk to your IT department and your legal department or whatever department that you have that's going to be running the security. I don't know if you have a CISO, a security information security officer, but yes, I mean, it's a short answer. Of course, we need to worry about security and all that. And there are platforms and companies that you know are secure. I feel comfortable about Google. I feel comfortable putting whatever I want into NotebookLM. I put my entire diary into it. That's how comfortable I feel about it. Crazy listening to a podcast about your life. But with the emergence of AI and how quickly this is moving, there's going to be a lot of companies out there that you don't have that innate trust with. So
are they
take that as
security agents? Like, are there, like, if, I mean, let's say you wanted to use it on your work laptop, and is there, or let's say for passwords, right? Like, you have like keychains, like, could you give it access to just say, like, enter? Like, I don't know, are there things where you don't give it your password, but like you give it the ability to access through your password, if that makes sense?
yeah, everybody, it's all pretty new. Um,
Not yet. It's not there yet.
yeah, I don't know. Maybe it is, and I'm not aware of it. But like even these things where I talked about where it can buy something for you, it's going to need to know.
Credit card
Yeah,
information,
yeah. So
address.
all very scary. And talking about AI in security, there are definitely companies out there that are protecting artificial intelligence at its base layer. So from Jupyter Notebook, I feel comfortable with the fact that there are companies out there doing security, but it's a mirage to some extent. So where we stand now.
I guess I don't, it's a risky little game, but I guess
Yeah.
we'll see where it all ends up.
And I'm not a
So,
security expert, and I'm very close with the security expert, so I won't talk about that to any extent, but like I feel comfortable enough using those companies that I trust.
there's a really fantastic question that's in actually right now. Like, this person they're in consulting, where human insight and, and client relationships are key. How can we effectively integrate AI agents without losing that trust, that empathy, and the connection, that we tried to make? Like we talk about it internally for us, we're all about those relationship building, right? With people. So is there anything you can kind of touch on that?
Yeah, great question. It's kind of what this whole slide is about, right? AI is great at communication, but connection, that's still up to us. And I said it earlier in the webinar, and I say it over and over again to everybody that I meet when I'm talking about AI. AI has allowed me to be more human. I come from the sales world. I'm a sales rep. Just like many other positions, that job is based on curating relationships. Where AI comes in is it takes away those monotonous and menial tasks that are repetitive and annoying and allows me to create those communication cycles again, right? Allows me to really sit on the call with somebody and ask them about their family and not worry about all of the data that I have to put into Salesforce after the call. AI is allowing me to have more human connection because I'm able to put off the things that aren't giving me connection. AI is allowing me to have more time with my kids because I'm able to get things done faster. So I think we need to reframe our thought process that artificial intelligence and these agents are just going to take away talking to anybody or getting anything done with community. It's allowing us to get back to community and connection.
It's good.
That's
Right. Taking
that's
your
my
Yes, taking your time.
So another one here is if you were like, this is a good question, and I really like this one. If you were new to your AI tool set, okay, so we've talked a lot about some different AI tools that are out there, they need to implement one today. What would it be and why?
Yeah, good question. Let's go back to this slide for a second. I would say first, I would need more information on what your role is. But second, I'll give you two. Buy a large language model subscription, whether that be ChatGPT, Perplexity, Claude, whatever that looks like, Gemini Plus, which gives you a lot of access to NotebookLM and Gemini Advanced and stuff. Buy one of them. That number one is going to be your arm in arm partner and everything you do. Second, note taker. Get a note taker. Whether again you're using Gemini, which has note takers in Google Meets, or you have a Zoom account, access that AI assistant. Guys, this is huge. Again, bringing it back to that connection piece. I don't take notes in meetings anymore. I sit there and get to look people in the eye and connect with them because I have a note taker going. It also allows me to have actionable items to follow up with. It allows me to get a really quick and easy email together to give them a recap of what that meeting looked like. It allows me to refocus on a problem and work it through. So a large language model, spend the $20, guys, and find a note taker. Those are the two I would start with.
So
Oh,
are
I would also say the note taker thing. I think it's a game changer right now we do it internally for us. I mean, I don't know how many times I've gone into meetings and there's just sometimes when you're just deep in conversation that you forget to write down what that was.
Yeah.
And then you go back and you're like, "Oh man, what was that thing we were talking about that I guess I'm supposed to do, but I forgot." But yeah, it's really really fantastic.
And it gives
Um,
you it gives everybody their action items, right? Like Alex needs to get this to Josh by Friday. And so at the end of it, you get this email and it just tells you a whole recap of everything. And there's even some like Read AI, which I thought was super interesting. It'll be like, who was the most talkative in the meeting and who was negative during the meeting. Like it kind of like gives these little like I don't know, kind of like gives everybody a little profile
Yeah.
sometimes. So
That's how I knew I talked 190 words per minute when I really got on. But there's a lot out there. There's Fathom, there's Read AI, there's Fireflies. I mean, just do your research. There's my LinkedIn here, guys, if you wanted to ask me about any of these tools or which ones that I've done a lot of
Yeah.
testing, which ones are best, please ask
Yeah.
me. But there's tons of note takers out there.
while I
Absolutely.
have you, sorry, one question. Is there one on your phone that you can get? Because I've only used it on a computer. Which note taker do you use on your phone for like
I
in meetings?
think that Fathom has a phone option.
Oh, okay.
Um, I'd have to look a little bit further into
Okay.
that.
There's a few things that I've been looking into. There's a thing called Limitless AI. There's another one, I think it was called Plaud, Plaud. And what they are is they're wearable devices that you can put on, like you just clip it on your shirt or whatever, you can hang it around your neck. And literally what it does is it listens for like if you're like in an in-person meeting. Now, I highly suggest people to let other people know that you are recording, don't be doing this behind people's back. I mean, but there are devices out there that you can kind of clip on your shirt and it will record it and provide you the same type of note taking results in on your phone app as well.
Yeah. And you want to talk about data and security.
Oopsies.
Yeah, and I mean, there's also like the Meta glasses that are out, the Ray-Bans. Google just announced that they're doing their own glasses too, which will all do very similar things and just record our whole lives so that we can. The Google I/O had, the glasses on and it's walking around the room, and then it would be like, where did I leave my phone? And it would be like, oh, it's in the other room next to the red apple, right?
Oh
Ooh.
God. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Alex.
No. I'm good.
Well, I was just going to say we were running up on time here. If there's no other questions, I figured, we could kind of start to wrap this up. Thank you so much, Tori. This was fantastic. There are so many folks on our chat that are saying this is really great. Some of the slides, they were like, "Oh, this is a fantastic slide." So I really appreciate you hopping on with us and providing your insight and what you have learned, over the last several years on AI. It's been invaluable, and I really appreciate that.
Awesome. Yes, thank you so much for having me. If you want to learn more about AI or just be in a community where there are other business leaders and hand raisers and owners that are talking about how to implement artificial intelligence into your business, I do run a networking group. I have the QR code up here for the LinkedIn page, and we have a meeting coming up on June 19th. It is up in Plano, and it is just a good networking community where everybody comes together and talks about real world use cases and how they're bringing AI into their business. So, and follow me on LinkedIn. I try to give tips, tricks, and you can always contact me to ask any more questions.
You're awesome, Tori. I'm so glad that we met at that meetup group and this really came out great. So thank you guys so much. Yeah, we'll talk soon. I'm sure you'll be hearing from me and a bunch of people here because we're gonna be like, how do we use this? So I appreciate your time.
Yes, thank you so much.
All
All
righty.
right. Thank you, Tori.
Thanks, guys.
Appreciate it. Thanks, everybody.